So suddenly we are halfway through the semester, and I realized that I hadn't talked about the classes that I'm taking and what I'm actually doing in this program. So that's what I want to go over in this video. Before I get into that, I kind of want to remind you of the structure of the program. Here at Chapman, the graduate film program is a conservatory model, so everybody works within a specific discipline. I'm in the directing emphasis, and there's also cinematography, editing, and sound design, all within the umbrella of the film production degree. And then there are separate degree programs for producers, screenwriters, and production designers, but we all work together on our student films. And because I'm a directing emphasis student, the classes that I take are tailored to directing. So they're not necessarily going to be the same as the cinematography classes or the editing classes. There is some overlap, and we do have some of the same classes, but they have classes that I don't take. I have classes that they don't take. So this is all going to be from my perspective. I have 5 classes, so what I'm going to do is just go chronologically through the week and tell you what they are, what they're about, and kind of what we're doing and where we are in the overall progression of the course. The first class I have is FP 531, Production Workshop 1. And this is essentially the lab class where we get to practice our hands-on filmmaking. And everybody in the program takes this class. There's 3 sections, I think, in order to keep the class size down. But it's a mix of all the disciplines. So in my section we have 6 directors, 5 cinematographers, I believe, 5 editors, and 2 sound designers. And so it's an opportunity for everybody to kind of like get their hands on and actually start practicing their visual storytelling skills. This class is structured around 4 projects. The first 2 are pretty small scale, like 1-minute solo exercises. The first is showing character through action without any dialogue. And the second is point of view and showing a character making a consequential decision. We don't get any support from the school for those. We just have to kind of go out and make them with whatever we can get our hands on. And everybody has to make their own movies. So the cinematographers have to make them, the sound designers have to make them, the editors have to make them. And it kind of gets everybody used to almost thinking like a director in terms of thinking about how the images that you're putting on screen communicate your narrative intentions. The third project, which we're in the middle of right now, is what we call a 1-to-1, which means 1-page script with 2 characters and 1 location. So it's a pretty contained film, but it's a step up from the previous exercises, where now we're directing a couple of actors and trying to reveal their relationship through their interaction. There's a little bit of crewing that happens, and so we have dedicated cinematographers and dedicated editors and sound people, but in this case it's not necessarily within your discipline because everybody also has to make one of these. So this past weekend I shot mine, and I had a cinematographer and a sound guy, and the day before that we shot one for a cinematographer, and then he had a cinematographer and a sound guy and an AD, and so on. And so everybody's making these 1-to-1 films, but it's getting us used to having a longer shoot, a more structured shoot, a bigger crew, and actually kind of working on set as a team. And it's kind of the warm-up project for the final project of the semester, which is the 3-to-1. Which you might guess is a 3-page script with 2 characters and 1 location. And this is the first project where we're actually going to be divided into crews according to our discipline. So directors direct, the cinematographers are shooting it, the editors are going to edit it, and the sound people are going to do the sound. And also the scripts are coming from the MFA screenwriters. So for my 3-2-1, even though I'm kind of a writer-director, for this project I can't write my own script. I have to select one from one of the screenwriters. And luckily I found one that I actually really like, and I'm really excited about this project. So where I am right now is I just finished my 1-2-1 this past weekend, and am getting ready to dive headfirst into the 3-2-1 and work with the screenwriter to polish that draft, start finding my crew, and start developing the visual language that I'm going to use to tell that story. And it's something that I'm really, really looking forward to. The next class I have is FP 530, Story. And this is essentially a survey class that's concerned with the elements of story and story structure. And our section is only for directors, so all the directors are in the same class, and there's nobody else in there except for directors. So I don't know what the difference is between our section and the way that this class is handled for the other disciplines. But in our class, it's kind of a lecture format with some participation, and we do various projects over the course of the term where we experiment with different forms of storytelling. For example, our first project, we had to choose from an auto drama, which is what I did, where I got up and told a story about something that happened earlier in my life. Some students did a photo essay based off of an interview with somebody in kind of a different community. And then some students presented a folktale from their own culture. In our section, there's been a lot of focus on the hero's journey as a universal underpinning of all storytelling. And I personally think that that's a bogus theory, so I'm not too happy with the amount of emphasis that's being placed on it. And our class is kind of split. Some of us feel that it's a really exciting and valuable class, and others, such as myself, feel that it's a bit remedial. It feels more like an undergraduate class. And I think those are the people who have some background in narrative strategies and story structure already, which when I was an undergrad at UT, there is a lot of that. It's all about narrative strategies and all about how to use the tools and techniques of filmmaking to communicate ideas. In terms of the course progression, we're right at the midterm. What we have to do is analyze the structure of a play and answer a bunch of questions, and that's due next week. So as soon as I finish this video, that's what I'm going to be getting on. And then we're going to have a similar assignment for our final, where we analyze a feature film. The third class I have is FP 538, Directing 1. And this is the only class that I saw the syllabus for ahead of time, and I was really excited for it because it's all about directing actors. So we bring in actors from outside, prepare scenes, and present them in class, and essentially have kind of a rehearsal with a professor there to kind of get us into what's the best way of communicating with the actors so that the scene plays out as we, as directors, intend it. So very cool. And directing is one of the things that I feel like I haven't had great instruction in the past, and it's one of the reasons I chose to do the directing track here at Chapman. And so I was really, really excited for this class. The reality of it has been a little bit of a letdown. I don't want to get too down on the class because it is a good class, but there's a real lack of structure to it. For the first couple of weeks, it was very unclear to us what was expected of us, what we were actually going to be doing, what we're going to be graded on, how the course was going to actually proceed. Our professor actually went on hiatus for 3 weeks to go do a TV show in Vancouver, and we had a substitute who was essentially teaching a completely different class. And it was more of an acting class as opposed to a directing class. And so we were actually doing more acting than we thought we'd be doing. and all of the instruction was really focused on how to act as opposed to how to direct actors or how to work with actors. And it's definitely a valuable exercise to go through, because if you can understand what it's like to be an actor, you're going to be better able to direct them and to actually talk to them about their craft. So that was good, but it kind of felt real topsy-turvy. Now we have our actual professor back and things feel like they're getting back on track, and the subtle difference of talking about working with actors versus acting has become kind of even more apparent after the last 3 weeks that we had. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about the rest of the semester. The fourth class I have is FP 504, Fundamentals of Visual Design and Production. And this was kind of designed to be the intro class to sort of like get everybody on the same baseline. Everybody in every discipline is in this one section of the class. We all have it together in the big screening theater. It's a lecture format, but we also analyze a lot of scenes. So we'll talk about some principle of composition or color or editing, and then we'll watch a few scenes and break down how they either do or do not use those techniques to get their point across. It's a really engaging class, even though at 10 o'clock in the morning after a 10 p.m. finish the night before, it can be a little bit rough sometimes. And a lot of the information is stuff that I already knew, but it's good to review it and see it in practice in all these examples that we're studying. In terms of the grading and assignments, it's the most kind of traditional. It's the most traditional kind of college class. We've got a midterm and a final, and that's basically it. And it's like a written test where we sit down, and we can't have our cell phones or computers or anything, and we just kind of write our answers on the test. And that's actually happening next week. And I've heard from some of the older students that it's a pretty tough exam. So I'm going to definitely be studying up for it, but I'm not really too worried. The last class that I have is SW 527, and this is Fundamentals of Screenwriting. And it's kind of an interesting situation. This is a screenwriting class, so it's not in the film production curriculum. But I guess a few years ago, they decided that it would be very useful for directors and ultimately producers as well to take this class and sort of like get a taste of what it's like to be a screenwriter, because we have to work with screenwriters later on. My section is about half screenwriters and half directors, and it's a really great class, a workshop class where we essentially just read each other's work and talk about what worked for us and what didn't work and how can we make things better if we were going to keep developing these scripts. But the workload is really heavy, and it's been, for the first 3 weeks, we've had to do 2 scripts every single week. Now we're down to only doing 1 script a week, but they're longer scripts, and it's just a lot of writing. And in between having to make a movie almost every week and prepare scenes for directing and then do all the reading and studying for the other classes, it's been tough to kind of keep my head above water, but it's been really enjoyable, and I'm kind of thinking of taking more screenwriting classes in the future if I have the time. One of the reasons the workload is so heavy in this class at the beginning of the semester is that we're not only doing our exercises for the screenwriting class, which is kind of working off of a prompt, trying to get a character to escape or do a confession or things like that, but we're also generating the 3-2-1 scripts that I talked about earlier. Unfortunately, the directors can't submit theirs, only screenwriters and producers can. But we've been doing one of those every week, trying to generate enough ideas and enough scripts so that all the directors will have a 3-2-1 that they're actually interested in. So that's about it as far as my classes go. I think my favorite classes right now are the screenwriting and the production workshop. because in those classes we're actually, producing a lot of work, and we spend almost all of our time in class actually reviewing everybody's work and talking about it, analyzing it, breaking it down, so we can figure out what went well, what went poorly, and what we can do to improve in the future. Production workshop in particular is almost a directing class. It's not supposed to be because we have other disciplines in there as well, but we're spending a lot of time talking about narrative intention and how to actually put that into practice. I think that's really useful, not just for directors, but for cinematographers and editors and sound designers as well. Yeah, that's all there is to say about that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.